Welcome back to the channel. This is Trendy Storm and you were watching 5th part of What If Naruto Was Betrayed and Destroyed Konoha. If you enjoy this video, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Naruto had been gone from Konoha for 3 years and 6 months. His departure was a glorious moment for the Leaf, but it was short-lived, as the village was attacked from all sides by enemies, lost all allies, and trade rights with those around them. To make matters worse, the Uchiha had yet to have children with his new wife because his single attempt had been ineffective and pathetic to anyone calling himself a man. After he went rogue a second time, the retrieval team, officially, beat him so badly that the Uchiha clan head couldn't reproduce with his equally pitiful wife Sakura until his injuries healed completely. As for Naruto, Konoha's fall from grace was his ascension to everything he should have become had the village honored his father's dying wish and simply treated the Uzumaki like a hero. The Uzumaki had learned about his mother's family, the clan's secret history, and how it had been betrayed by those who were supposed to be their most trusted allies. To make matters even more incredible for Naruto, the source of this information was the spirit of Uzumaki Genshin, the illegitimate son of the Sage of Six Paths who wielded the sword of Jubi alongside the Rinnegan. Genshin had entrusted his sword to Naruto to use as he saw fit in order to bring the justice that the Uzumaki spirits of those who died in Whirlpool demanded from the afterlife. Since then, Naruto has trained, grown stronger with each passing day, and endured hell for every second he has spent becoming the man he is now. Along the way, the Uzumaki gained allies in the form of his fellow Jinchuriki, as well as a few countries he had visited while still a Konoha shinobi. Each of them had pledged to help him in his mission to destroy the Akatsuki organization, which planned to use the power of the Biju within each Jinchuriki against the world. So far, Naruto had dealt a major blow to the organization by killing one Hoshigaki Kisame and turning Uchiha Itachi into a spy for him. As an added bonus, Naruto discovered the truth about the Uchiha massacre and how it wasn't exactly as Konoha portrayed it, while also discovering that the Uchiha was secretly spying for Konoha. So Naruto was able to spread false information through the Akatsuki when Itachi gave his report on events to the group, as well as through his old village when the Sannin gave his reports to Tsunade. And where was Naruto at the time? He was in a house near the water in Wave Country. Another gift from Tizuna, who had it built to be a sort of safe house for Naruto to live in when traveling all over the elemental countries became too exhausting and he needed a place to crash for a short time. It had a nice sizable boat on hand in case the missing nin for an Uzumaki needed to make a great escape from any potential pursuers that might come his way. Konoha and Taki had placed a large bounty on his head. Speaking of Taki, it appeared that Fu's bounty had increased, and Konoha was attempting to collect it as well. According to what Itachi learned from Jiraiya during their information exchange, the Leaf's plan had been to capture Fu, have her mind reprogrammed, and reconditioned to become a weapon for the Leaf village. They even wanted her to become the Uchiha's wife, which would be the official title for her, but only a title, and in reality they would have Sasuke forcefully impregnate the woman if necessary. The powers that be reasoned that the stronger the female, the more motivated Sasuke would be to resurrect his clan with her, and given that Fu is the current Jinchuriki of the seven-tailed Nanabi, they reasoned that he would definitely want her. Naruto-kun? Inquired the slumbering girl, who was naked and snuggled up against him. Yes, Fu, Naruto replied as he caressed the woman's form close to his own, and she hummed with delight at the contact. Do you think that when this business with the Akatsuki, Orochimaru, and Konoha is over that we could get married? Fu asked, seeing Naruto close both his eyes despite one of them having been dead for several years, and smiling at the thought. The two had been intimate for the first time since Fu had first traveled with him after leaving Taki, and the green-haired Jinchuriki had confessed her feelings for him the night before. Fu couldn't stand the thought of suppressing her feelings for Naruto any longer, seeing him care about others like himself, fighting against the oppressors who held Jinchuriki and others like them hostage. She saw in him strength, greatness, compassion, understanding, and pretty much everything Fu could want in a man. So, with that in mind, Fu confessed how she truly felt, kissing him passionately and disrobing in front of the Uzumaki to prove her sincerity. She desired to be his mind, body, and soul, looking him in his one passionate blue eye, which Fu could tell was filled with love as well as growing lust at the sight of her athletic form that stood before him. Naruto admitted to falling for the green-haired Jinchuriki, saying she was one of the few women in the elemental countries who could make his heart swell and ache with longing. He did, however, ask the girl how she felt about sharing him with any other women in his life who were worthy of being with him, but Fu surprised Naruto with a kiss to his lip and simply whispered her answer into his ears. "I only want you. If it means sharing you and the love in your heart, so be it. All I ask is that I get my fair share, just like every other woman. And the rest, as they say, is history." "Of course, Fu. I would love to marry you," Naruto replied, as Fu kissed his chest. "Can we have it here? In Wave?" asked Fu, who liked this place and its people because they never made fun of her for being a Jinchuriki. She was just a woman to them. She was now Naruto's lady and future wife. One that would be among many, but one nonetheless. "If that's your wish, Fu. I'm sure the people of Wave would love the idea of having such a grand wedding here," Naruto replied, as the woman moved on top of him, straddling his waist, and moaning lustfully at the sensation of being connected at the hip once more. "I can picture it now. Blooming flowers raining down, birds chirping, singing their beautiful melody in the air, the people of Wave watching us with joy in their hearts at seeing us together, and the warm spring weather making it all the sweeter," Fu said as she moved her hips, sensually gyrating now, and moaned when she felt his hands on her breasts. Naruto gave Fu a friendly smile. His friend, fellow Jinchuriki, and now lover was riding him at her own pace for the morning romp that her heart desired. He could just imagine how the people in Konoha would react if they saw the two of them doing this right now. Kurenai would label him a pervert who deserved to be castrated. Kakashi would despise Naruto being with any woman who wanted to marry and have children with him one day. Shikamaru would think he was bothering her by wanting to be with any active woman. Kiba would want to take his place and make Fu his own bitch, disregarding her desires. "It's fate two demons get together to fornicate and bring about abominations for children," Neji would say, while Tenten agreed while preparing her own weapons to castrate the two lovers. When it came to the two Jinchuriki, the others would most likely be in the same general area of the thought process, but Naruto was certain Hinata would be heartbroken upon hearing such news, and he knew that speaking with the Hyuga girl was a priority in his mind that would eventually have to be addressed. First and foremost, Naruto thought as he moved one of his hands to Fu's buttocks and began to take command of the pace by thrusting up into her womanhood as she began to descend. It was sending jolts of pleasure up the girl's body, her cries of passion growing louder with each new powerful thrust. "We got ourselves a keeper, my larva," Chimay said, "though after last night's mating I should probably call you a butterfly," Fu said, ignoring the biju for the pleasure she was experiencing right now. "You may repeat that, Chimay. And if anyone tries to take him away from us, like Konoha or the Akatsuki, I'll show everyone in their ranks what kind of stinger this butterfly has." Fu thought before being flipped over onto her back and Naruto grinning down at her. "Let's pick up the pace a little," Naruto said before kissing the woman passionately on the lips while molesting her with one hand and putting the girl's leg on his shoulder with the other. "Oh, yes. Definitely my kind of guy," Fu thought as she noticed Naruto approaching her from a different angle, at a faster pace, and with nearly double the power behind his thrusts. Not to mention Naruto's own large and pointy stinger. The two would spend the majority of the morning in bed. Konoha a little later. They say that seeds of doubt can be planted anywhere in a person to call one's beliefs on a subject into question, regardless of loyalty. They can, however, only take root and grow if a fertile soul provides a foundation for them to do so. The seeds of doubt can do more damage than any physical weapon man has ever created, and leave the most permanent scars on the mind, if not the soul, by using just the right words, questioning one's beliefs with observations about different people in that person's company. The questioning of loyalty, the arguments that would ensue, the growing thoughts of betrayal, the act of betrayal itself, and the chaotic aftermath that would ensue when those betrayed discovered who had betrayed them. Such seeds of doubt were planted some time ago when Naruto spoke to his old friends from Konoha and their senseis in Wave Country. The plan was to make those his age or around his age question Konoha's leadership and those who taught them about their village's greatness. Many of the rookies, as well as Guy's team, had seeds of doubt planted within their minds, waiting to take root and grow. Their pride in themselves and denial of the possible truth kept the seeds from germinating at first, but human curiosity is a funny thing when the mind begins to question things, and the painful truth makes itself known to those who would rather be blind than see it staring them right in the face. Unfortunately for some in Konoha, the cold hard truth has a way of forcing you to open your eyes and see things for what they truly are when seen. Ignorance and arrogance are bliss until they are shattered. Yamanaka Ino discovered this while eating dinner with her parents, and she had a thoughtful look on her face that she didn't normally have. The normally cheerful girl, who had yet to win Sasuke's attention and the right to be his wife alongside Sakura, was completely serious this evening. Something her parents noticed, and it was her father who decided to find out what was on his daughter's mind. Ino-chan dear, what appears to be the problem? You're so serious all of a sudden, Inoichi asked, as the girl shrugged and he looked at his wife Kaoru, who was watching their only child pick at the remnants of food on her plate. Mom. Dad. If I ask you a simple question, do you promise not to get angry and tell me the absolute truth? Ino asked, as Inoichi and Kaoru looked at each other with puzzled expressions. Sure, honey. What is the question? Kaoru replied, hoping it wasn't something too embarrassing that they couldn't answer. Well. Do you remember how my group met Naruto a few months ago? Ino asked, as the two nodded. Sure, Ino. The demon brat retreated. What about him? Inquired Inoichi, who had a feeling he didn't like the way things were going. It's just. He said something to us and I'm not sure if I should ask you, Ino replied, her voice unsure. What did he say exactly, sweetie? Kaoru inquired as he noticed Ino take a deep breath. He said that we shouldn't be so quick to believe everything you told us. That if things had been different, any of us could have been Jinchuriki, and be abandoned by our very parents. That if I, for example, were made Jinchuriki of Kyuubi, you would both abandon me as your daughter, and leave me alone to suffer like he did growing up. He asked you that? Kaoru asked, Inoichi grimacing. Yeah. It's silly, isn't it? You two leaving me alone to suffer pain and suffering like that Baka did because he was a Jinchuriki, but I told myself deep down that you wouldn't do that and love me no matter what. Exclaimed Ino as she laughed heartily and looked at her parents to see if they were laughing with her. In fact, they appeared to be very serious at the time. I can't believe he asked you. Exclaimed Inoichi, her teeth clenched. Why? He's wrong about you, right? Ino asked, her mother and father looking at each other. Ino, it's. Sweetie, we love you, right? Kaoru replied, and Ino nodded, her stomach churning with fear. Yeah, I know that. But would you love me regardless if I was a Jinchuriki? Countered Ino, surprised that neither of them rose to fight the implied fear of the question. Ino. You must understand. Being a Jinchuriki is not something any parent wishes to happen to their own child. It has long been Konoha's policy regarding Jinchuriki that they are to be given little to nothing in life. No contact with family if any exists, no friends unless needed to be used, and the sensei of a Jinchuriki must be prepared to kill the vessel if given the command should it be determined that the demon inside the body is becoming. You mean you'd let people beat me? Dig through garbage like a stray dog? To suffer the harsh cold nights and heavy rain with no way to protect myself? Ino asked, tears streaming down her cheeks. It's not like we do it on purpose, Ino-chan. It's just how that's it is. Exclaimed Kaoru, making Ino even more upset. Besides, why should you dwell on what ifs, and what your life would be like as a Jinchuriki? You're not. You're Yamanaka Ino. Our daughter. End of discussion. No. It's not over. You just admitted that you wouldn't love me if I were a Jinchuriki. Exclaimed a now hysterical Ino as she rose from her seat and backed away from them. Ino. Sit down. We love you, Inoichi countered, with Ino staring at him. Only because I'm not like Naruto. If I were, you'd probably be among those in the village who would beat me every chance they got and make my life miserable, Ino replied. Ino, stop right now. You're being irrational. Exclaimed Inoichi as he saw his only daughter glaring at him while his right hand was under the table, going through hand signs. Am I? Everything in my life growing up has been great. I've had friends, presents on my birthday, a roof over my head, 3 meals a day, and just about the ideal childhood life one can have growing up. Exclaimed Ino before feeling her father's chakra spike and him hitting her with the mind-disable jutsu. Inoichi. Exclaimed Kaoru, but Inoichi cut her off with a glare. She was going insane, Kaoru-chan. I need to take her to the Hokage and see what needs to be done, Inoichi explained, and Kaoru nodded. Just be careful with her mind, Kaoru replied, as Inoichi nodded. Along with Shikamaru. Shikamaru was always a bright individual. Lazy, but bright, if not genius-level intelligence, just like his father and his father's father before him. So, after what happened with Naruto in Wave Country a while back, the Nara male was processing everything from that moment in his head from every single angle, and every single word spoken during their confrontation with their target's shadow clone. While there wasn't much to go on, it was clear that the cloak and hood were meant to keep them from seeing what lay beyond them. There were rumors that Naruto was a kenjutsu master of some sort, but there was no real evidence of it, and Shikamaru knew such rumors wouldn't exist unless there was even a smidgen of truth to them. So it was possible Naruto had a sword with powerful properties, similar to what the 7 swordsmen of the mist had. The blonde wasn't one to reveal his hand too soon in a card game, and if he did, it was only because Naruto knew no one else had an ace up their sleeve to beat him. There was also Naruto's shadow clone's conversation with them. Not their former sensei or Jiraiya of the Sannin, but the rookies and Gai's old team, who were all ready to fight. Shikamaru could tell Naruto was confident that the question posed by each rookie to their respective parent would and could be something they didn't want an answer to if given one by the blonde. When Naruto told them to ask the question, he had a look in his eye that said he knew the answer without a shadow of a doubt. Shikamaru, on the other hand, knew the answer because he wasn't as naive as Ino or Choji about asking his parents the question Naruto wanted each of them to ask. Shikamaru was well versed in the history of Jinchuriki generals and how they were constantly abused by their village in order to turn them into subservient weapons. Shikamaru knew that if he had been chosen by the Yondaime Hokage to hold the Kyuubi, his life would have been hell, and the Nara calculated a 98% chance, with a 2% error, that he would have died before his 10th birthday. Shikamaru had known this before he stupidly, in his opinion, decided to confirm his suspicions by asking the very question Naruto wanted them to ask. If Nara Shikamaru was the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, would his parents love him? What is the answer to this question? Simple. Shikamaru knew Naruto had struck his very soul and hit dead center when he received no response from his mother and received no response from his father. His own parents, who brought him into this world, showed him love and care, provided a roof over his head, fed and clothed him, and taught Shikamaru as he grew up, would have said, "He's a Jinchuriki now. Screw him." Before abandoning their son to fend for himself. Troublesome. Is this what you're looking for, Naruto? To have us question our allegiance to the leaf knowing that your life could have been ours if we were in your shoes? To know that our parents would abandon us for being what you are now? Damn it, and you, Naruto. Shikamaru thought angrily as he looked up at the sky, seeing the clouds moving around, but even they failed to calm his mind and allow him to think clearly. Now there was no turning back. You couldn't press a reset button and start over in order to change things. No. The pieces on the shogi board were moving. Naruto had his pieces, and Konoha had its own, and neither was willing to back down from a fight. Shikamaru knew it was an unavoidable outcome that would occur between the two parties sooner or later. Tsunade had hoped to capture Naruto with the team she sent, but Orochimaru was stirring things up again in Rice Country at one of his many bases. The other shinobi villages were starting to stir again, and the need to call off the hunt for the rogue Kyuubi Jinchuriki seemed to be getting closer by the day. What was he thinking? Shikamaru wouldn't be surprised if Tsunade directed Jiraiya to look for Naruto in order to extend the proverbial olive branch. He didn't expect Tsunade to keep any of the promises Jiraiya made on her behalf because the woman wasn't known for keeping any agreements she made unless there was no other option. While there wasn't one yet, Shikamaru knew Tsunade would take advantage of the olive branch offered to pull a fast one and trap Naruto before doing what was planned from the start. To either turn Naruto into a mindless obedient weapon or to ensure that a replacement is in place so that the new Jinchuriki is more comfortable doing things Konoha's way. Shikamaru frowned at the secondary part of that plan because he had been told that only an Uzumaki could contain the fox's power, which meant Naruto would have to impregnate a woman, and there was only one woman in the village who wanted his child. Granted, she would not want the child to be turned into a Jinchuriki, but it was something that had to be done, even if it meant destroying Hinata and killing, if not exiling, her from Konoha to ensure all contact with the child was lost. While Shikamaru had no feelings for Naruto, robbing Hinata of her child, even if the child grew up to be a Jinchuriki, seemed wrong. She was a person. Didn't Konoha oppose hurting its own people, who were all normal, especially when they came from respected clans like the Hyuga? You're overthinking things, son, Shikamaru's father, Nara Shikaku, said as he sat down beside his son to watch the clouds and bond. Am I? If we bring Naruto back, he is turned into a mindless weapon, or we use Hinata to create an Uzumaki capable of holding the fox, we screw over one of our comrades, who is a normal human being and comes from the Hyuga clan. It seems wrong to hurt one of our own, Shikamaru replied as his father sighed. I know, son. It seems wrong, but we have to make sacrifices to get the power capable of defending the village. Overall, only 3 entities are being hurt here. The demon, the child he will one day have with the Hyuga girl, and of course Hinata herself. Only one of them is truly worth feeling sorrow for, and it doesn't take a genius to figure out which is, Shikaku explained as Shikamaru sighed. It still feels wrong, Shikamaru replied, smirking at his son. You'll get over it, son. We all did at some point, Shikaku said before walking away and leaving his son with something to think about. Didn't we all at some point? What exactly does he mean by that? Shikamaru wondered, looking at his father's back, what the man was referring to when he said that. That night with Neji and Tenten. It was dark where Neji was when he awoke, as he struggled to break free from his shackles, and he felt his arms down to his hands were tied behind his back with chakra-suppressing rope. Around him were barrels of oil, each one filled to the brim with the dark liquid, each with multiple explosive tags attached with wires, and those wires were all connected to a large timer device counting down from 5 minutes. What the hell happened? Tenten and I are training 1 minute, then. Why can't I remember? Thought Neji as he felt the ropes were tied by an expert and looked down to see his feet were also tied. You seem surprised that someone could easily get the upper hand on you, a muffled dark voice from the shadows said. Who's there? Exclaimed Neji, as the figure chuckled and revealed himself. You have courage despite your current situation, Hyuga Neji. I am. The Shogun of Shadows, said the Shogun, who was dressed in a distinctive purple and gold design that covered him from head to toe to conceal his identity. Shogun? There isn't a Shogun. It hasn't happened since the Sage of Six Paths. With the Shogun just staring at him and not moving, Neji thought. The man was dressed in a purple robe that concealed his form and any possibility of revealing his true identity. The purple robe's outline was trimmed with a gold lining along each edge, a mask of similar color design with 2 tinted lenses to keep anyone from seeing his eyes, and a large round-rimmed based purple hat that concealed his hair. His facial mask also had a seal on it that glowed when he spoke, allowing Neji to deduce that it was a voice-scrambling seal of some kind, obscuring even the Shogun's voice. You should feel honored to be in my presence, Hyuga Neji. You are the first Konoha shinobi to meet me, the Shogun said, as the bound Hyuga glared at him with daggers. Where am I? Neji asked, standing about 15 to 20 feet away from the figure. You're currently in an abandoned building, one of many in Konoha's slums, the Shogun responded, as Neji stared at him. And my teammate Tenten? Neji inquired, the Shogun slightly amused. Don't worry about her. Tenten is fine. She is tied up like yourself at the moment, but otherwise unharmed, replied the Shogun, with Neji unable to see beyond his enemy's mask. Are you in league with Naruto? Are you his secret ally sent to intimidate all of us into feeling guilty about the decisions we've made? Neji asked, the Shogun laughing hysterically and his laughter reverberating throughout the room. And people say Hyuga clan members lack humor, the Shogun replied before walking over to a TV monitor with his back to the Hyuga and turning it on. Tenten is shown in the same position as her teammate. Tenten! Exclaimed Neji as he noticed Tenten look up and see him on her TV monitor. Neji! Tenten exclaimed, relieved that her teammate was alive but horrified that he was in the same situation as herself. I'll leave you 2 lovebirds alone, the Shogun said before disappearing into the shadows. We have to get out of here, Neji. Where are you anyway? Tenten exclaimed as she redoubled her efforts to flee. In some abandoned building, apparently, Neji replied, with the bun-haired girl shaking her head no. These ropes are really tight on my arms and legs, and this guy didn't want us to get free, Tenten said as Neji grimaced. Same here. Whoever he is, this so-called Shogun of Shadows means business, Neji replied as the timer approached 3 minutes. We need to warn the Hokage. You need to get out, Neji. Exclaimed Tenten as she struggled to free herself from the rope that bound her and saw her teammate doing the same. I'm trying. How about you? Can you get free? Neji asked before collapsing onto the floor while still tied to his chair. Unfortunately, the chair was made of metal and would not shatter on impact. No. Are you okay? I can't see you. Tenten worriedly exclaimed as Neji struggled to break free. I'm fine. I just fell over, but I'm still tied up, Neji replied, moving around but stopping when he felt something wet and slick from behind. One of the barrels collapsed alongside him, and oil was pooling around half of his body. Not a good thing when the liquid is flammable and explosive tags capable of annihilating him are all over the place. So, with that in mind, Neji closed one eye to prevent the oil from entering the optical organ and kept his mouth mostly closed to keep the oil out. And time was ticking away. There were 2 minutes left. 20 minutes earlier, Hokage's office. "Where are you, brat? Come on out and face us," exclaimed Tsunade, more to herself, as she tore up the report from Jiraiya's latest failed attempt to find Naruto. "Are you having trouble with something?" asked a muffled voice from the shadows. "Who the hell are you?" demanded Tsunade as she rose from her chair, ready to smack the living crap out of this unknown foe. "Who I am is unimportant. What matters is the location of 2 subordinates under your command, Hyuga Neji and Osamu Tenten, formerly of Genin Team 9, correct?" replied the figure, and Tsunade's eyes widened before narrowing at him. "What did you do to them?" Tsunade inquired, as the figure chuckled in his throat. "The question you should be asking yourself is what will happen to them if you don't find them in the next 22 minutes, countered the figure, while the 5th Hokage looked enraged. "Ibiki will make you talk, and then all Inoichi will destroy your mind when I order him to dive into your head," Tsunade exclaimed, and the figure laughed again. "I don't think so, 5th Hokage. You have a time limit for finding them for a reason, and neither shinobi is in the same location. Truth be told, you can only save one of them, and that's if you're feeling lucky," exclaimed the shadowy masked figure before walking back into it. Tsunade yelled into her intercom system, "Shizune! Get me all available shinobi in the village. All of them." Tsunade explained what had just happened with Neji and Tenten being captured for some sick individual's pleasure, and within moments, every available shinobi was in front of her. It was further confirmed when shinobi went to find the 2 at their usual haunts, points of interest, and residences. Unfortunately for Tsunade, the 2 missing Junin were never found, confirming that this was not some cruel joke played by someone in the village. "This isn't looking good. We need Neji to locate Naruto and Tenten's skills and use her weapons, which are laced with various poisons and sedatives, to weaken him. They are a vital part of our team, and without them, we would be severely disadvantaged." Asuma immediately blamed Naruto for this situation. "Fan out. Find Neji and Tenten in whatever way you see fit. I want those 2 Junin rescued and the person responsible," Tsunade commanded, the shinobi around her nodding before they left. "Do you think they'll find them, Hokage-sama?" Shizune asked, seeing the blonde woman scowl even more. "I hope so, Shizune. That mysterious figure in my office could be a new threat to Konoha, testing us to see how strong we are after everything thrown at the Leaf Village in recent years," Tsunade replied, with Shizune nodding. "In collaboration with Neji and Tenten present time." For the 2 Konoha shinobi, time was ticking away. Only 1 minute remained before the explosive tags would detonate, and neither of the 2 bound captives was anywhere close to being free of their bonds. Tenten had begun to cry by this point, her normally calm and cool demeanor shattered by the realization that she was about to die in less than a minute. The cold hand of death was closing in on her, and Tenten could do nothing to stop it. Here's one," exclaimed a voice as the room's doors burst open, allowing several Konoha shinobi of Junin rank to enter and free the captive. "Hurry. Untie me. We need to find Tenten," commanded Neji as he felt the rope that bound his body come undone and looked at the timer ticking away. They only had 10 seconds. "Don't worry about me, Neji. I'll be fine. Just be strong, Tenten replied as she watched the two Konoha shinobi free him on her monitor. Run! Exclaimed one Junin as he and his fellow comrade dragged Neji to the door, the timer striking 0 just as they arrived. KABOM. That was the sound that came from the two buildings, which were several blocks apart, as the two Junin and Neji were thrown from one of them, the fire from the explosion latching onto the Hyuga. He screamed in agony as the flame ate through half of his clothing and face for several agonizing minutes before his two saviors could shake the cobwebs out of their heads and put it out. Neji had blacked out from the pain and let the blissful darkness take him by the time Tsunade arrived on the scene to assess the situation. From the Hokage monument. You'd think they'd beefed up their defenses to keep enemies out of the village, a figure from behind said. Yes, I suppose. The cost of arrogance, said the other figure, who was standing on the Yondaime Hokage's head and watching Konoha. Do you have any mixed feelings about me assisting you? Asked the figure, his smirk never leaving his face. Does it really matter? Asked the masked figure, shaking his head. Not at all, Shogun-sama. Just curious, given my own history with this particular village, replied the still smirking figure, his voice amused. Indeed. And your so-called master, whom you've served up until now, how has he been?
Is he still insane as ever? Inquired the Shogun.
Yes, he is still obsessed with obtaining the Sharingan from Sasuke because Itachi is out of his reach, but when you consider the power the Sharingan eyes hold and what they can do when pushed to their limits, it makes one salivate at the thought of possessing them, replied the figure, and the Shogun turned his masked head slightly towards the figure. Is that ambition and love for the Sharingan I hear in your voice? Asked the Shogun, his tone warning. No, no. Of course not, Shogun-sama. It would be foolish of me to think along those lines and understand what it means to betray your trust, the figure quickly admitted with raised hands and a humbled tone. You sound like a humble man. I hope you do.
Kabuto, the Shogun replied before the two vanished. Days later at Konoha Hospital. I can't believe she's gone, Neji said, looking saddened by the loss of the kunoichi who had been a part of their lives since Genin Team 9 was formed years ago.
Don't worry, Neji. We'll find out who did this to you and Tenten. Exclaimed Guy, his voice calm but righteous. I was going to ask her to marry me, Neji responded unexpectedly, both his former sensei and former teammate looking at him with surprise. You two were that serious? Asked Lee, as Neji groaned in pain and moved his head slightly in the direction of the man.
Yeah, we kept it a secret from everyone.
I was going to surprise you with the news after we captured Naruto, but now. Neji replied, his voice sorrowful.
How is your treatment going?
Guy inquired, knowing that the change in subject would be beneficial. There is no treatment, Neji stated emphatically, shocking the two Junin in front of him. What? Why? Tsunade can heal you like she did me, and with some skin grafting, you'll be as good as new. Exclaimed Lee, while Neji shook his head. Because the pain of losing Tenten far outweighs the pain of my body and face, Neji replied bitterly. I'm sorry for your loss, Neji. We're both sorry, Guy said sadly as Neji turned to face them, and they winced at the sight of his burned face. No. No, you're not. Not yet. That's what makes this worse, Neji replied before motioning them to leave with his non-burned hand. Stay with him, Lee. We need to wait until Tsunade comes here with Inoichi to look into his mind for the identity of the kidnapper before we find him, Guy instructed, and Lee nodded while remaining in front of the door. "No one will get past me, Guy-sensei," exclaimed Lee proudly, his voice firm. Meeting room, Hokage Tower. "He's refusing treatment?" Hiyashi asked, his face flushed at the news. "Yes, according to what Guy told me just now. Neji and Tenten were secretly dating with a wedding plan for the future," Tsunade replied, with Hiyashi now sporting a scowl on her face. As if the Hyuga clan would allow that, Hiyashi replied coldly, knowing such a thing was not possible with his clan. "I would think you would be more sympathetic to your nephew Hiyashi-san, given that he has recently lost someone close to his heart," Tsunade replied. "Someone he would never be allowed to marry into the clan, as I'm sure Neji is well aware by now," Hiyashi countered, Tsunade narrowing her eyes at him.
In any case, thanks to this attack, we now know we have a new enemy, and I'm having Jiraiya look into the identity of the person I believe is responsible for this outrage, Tsunade replied, while the others nodded, knowing Jiraiya's spy network could find the answers to their questions.
"All the more reason to capture the Kyuubi Jinchuriki and the two who have joined him," Danzo replied as everyone nodded. It was one thing to have the Kyuubi Jinchuriki in their pocket, but having two more, both with high-numbered tails, was even better. There's also the issue of Orochimaru lurking in Rice Country, and the recent infiltration of Konoha proves we need to upgrade our defenses and procedures to keep spies or any other threat within the village. Out," stated Tsunade, to which many in the room agreed.
"Damn you.
Those new protocols will undoubtedly prevent Orochimaru's spies and my route from fleeing Konoha undetected. Tsunade would suspect inside help from within the governing body if they did, and look at me because route is mine," Danzo thought, making a mental note to figure out how to get around the new defenses after some time passed to keep suspicion to a minimum. And perhaps use it to discredit Tsunade as well.
Konoha Medical Center.
Lee dashed into Neji's room, cursing himself and his immature bladder, which had just demanded he go to the nearest bathroom for relief. He'd been standing guard outside Neji's hospital room for hours, but the Junin's bladder was arguably more persistent than the Junin himself, and even Lee's springtime of youth couldn't keep the internal organ from releasing all the biological waste the body had processed. When the energetic Junin entered Neji's room, he discovered the door was slightly open, and the man opened the door to reveal a tall-looking doctor with spiky blonde hair holding a clipboard. "Who are you?"
"You're not Neji's doctor," Lee said to the man before turning around to face him.
"Hello Lee," Naruto said as he took his taijutsu fighting stance in front of the Junin. "You're going down, Naruto," exclaimed Lee before being stabbed in the back with a sword in a hand covering Lee's mouth to prevent him from crying out. "This is a hospital, Lee."
"Your voice shouldn't be so loud," Naruto replied, though it was the one behind Lee who spoke and had his neck snapped, so the last thing the Junin saw before his death was the shadow clone of the Uzumaki.
"Shut the door and place Lee's body in the nearby closet before dispelling. Neji and I need to have a little talk," replied the real Naruto before sitting in the chair in front of a sedated Hyuga who was slowly awakening. The shadow clone did as instructed and dispelled, while the real Uzumaki Naruto erected a sound barrier to ensure no one could hear their conversation.
To ensure there was no interference from the outside world, Naruto had created another shadow clone to henge into Lee and remove any suspicion from any shinobi passing by who wanted to see Neji.
"You!" exclaimed Neji, who noticed Naruto smirking at him. "Hi Neji. I like your new look. It suits you. It reminds me of the yin-yang symbol. How's your cage bird seal holding up? Robbed you of eyesight yet?"
replied Naruto, with Neji glaring at him with his one good eye.
"The seal was damaged to the point where it couldn't activate," Neji replied, gritting his teeth and showing Naruto what part of his flesh he could see. Well, at least you can see. Somewhat clearly. Shame what happened to you, and what's her name? What was her name again? Ten-5? Ten-2? 1080? Neji reached for Naruto's neck, but the restraints that bound him to the bed prevented it, and his face was filled with rage. It's Tenten! Exclaimed Neji angrily. Not 10-5. Not 10-8. Tenten. Alright. Tenten. As I was saying, I am sorry for the loss of your teammate and future wife. You two made a great couple, Naruto said, while Neji remained enraged. Like you're truly sorry. It's all your fault, Neji replied, as Naruto frowned at him. My fault? You do realize that while you and Tenten were Mia here in Konoha, I was elsewhere with other matters, Naruto countered, his gaze fixed on Neji. Your people, your subordinates, your plan. Retorted Neji. Do I really look like a guy with a plan? Naruto asked, deadpanned. You've always had a plan, Neji exclaimed as Naruto scoffed. When I'm in a fight. And normally when I'm in the thick of it all, do you really think I wanted things to go the way they did? Naruto asked, his eyes filled with doubt. I don't know. I don't know anything anymore, Neji admitted defeatedly. I understand, though you shouldn't be surprised they chose you over Tenten, Naruto said, his good eye filled with rage. What the hell are you talking about? They got to me first. Yelled Neji, raising an eyebrow at him. Is that what they told you? That they found you first and didn't have time to rescue her?
I would think given Konoha's various tracking-oriented shinobi at the Hokage's disposal, they would have found and saved you both.
I mean, how many tracking-oriented shinobi are there in Konoha? You have the Hyuga, Inuzuka, and Aburame clans who could be ordered by the 5th to use their bloodlines to find you both. I don't know, Neji replied, but deep down he didn't want to know, and yet. Part of him did. Even if he would later come to regret it. I'll tell you why, Neji. It's because you have more value than Tenten, and when it comes down to it, they chose to save a branch family member of the Hyuga clan over your dear sweet teammate and future wife. To be honest, Neji. I'm not surprised, Naruto said as Neji frowned. What do you mean? Neji inquired. Come now, Neji. Don't be naive. It doesn't suit you. We both know that this outcome was set in stone from the moment the situation first occurred. You really think Tenten has a value equal or greater than yours when it comes to Konoha's future? That the Hyuga clan wouldn't be able to influence things so they could save you and leave Tenten to become nothing more than a burned-up body? She was a devoted shinobi of Konoha, a strong kunoichi among the ranks, Neji countered, with Naruto nodding in agreement. True. But she isn't from an influential clan, is she? She doesn't have a bloodline. She has no wealth. Tenten worked in a weapons shop owned by her family, correct? I don't think the Hyuga clan uses weapons all that much, so it's not really necessary for them to even come in here unless it's to be cheap and buy the standard shinobi weapons we all use in this life, stated Naruto, each point hitting home for Nei. But she was strong, and the Hyuga clan values strength, Neji countered, but even his words sounded weak. The Hyuga values power they can wield in the long run. They value politics and those in the political world with power over others. Why do you think they prefer to embrace the concept of arranged marriages to nobles? Or the daughters of said nobles? They can use them to have the clan put in a key position and not worry about inbreeding with the clan sign. It provides a way out of doing such things. I know. That's why I wanted to keep it a secret until your inevitable capture and use it as a means for the Hyuga clan to consider her worthy of being my wife. She was going to use her weapons laced with poisons and sedatives to weaken you in battle. With her skill in throwing accurately and using weapons in close combat made it highly likely of your defeat being possible, Neji stated, Naruto laughing. You really think she could have taken with that of all things? Replied Naruto before freeing Neji's normal arm from its restraints and quickly grabbing it when the Hyuga tried to aim for his throat. I should kill you now, exclaimed Neji, while Naruto kept a firm grip on the man's wrist to prevent him from going for the kill. True. You could do that, because that's what schemers like Tsunade, Jiraiya, and even the Hyuga clan head you have for an uncle would do, and try to end my life. Or you can just stop being like a schemer and be more like me, Naruto said as he noticed Neji narrow his eyes at him. Schemer? What are you talking about? Neji asked, as Naruto smiled at him. Schemers. You know who I'm talking about, Neji. Schemers scheme. They plot. They plan. They manipulate others to do things for them. Surely you've noticed what a schemer looks like, right? You see the Hokage for missions every now and then, your uncle for a clan head, and just about everyone else sitting in the chairs that run the governing body of the Leaf. They are schemers. They tried to make you into. You said I should be more like you. Who exactly are you? Neji asked, as Naruto smiled at him. I thought that was pretty obvious, Neji. I'm what everyone here says I am. I'm a monster. A demon made from the village's own hatred. I'm a fiend to them, Neji. But one thing I am above all others by my former comrade in arms. Is chaos. I'm an agent of chaos in this stagnant world. And you know what the thing about chaos, Neji? It's 100% fair, said Naruto, looking the fair? Neji inquired before Naruto placed a Fire Country coin in his hand. Yeah. Fair. Not like your so-called fate, which... Well, if it exists, and I'm not saying it does. Well, it plays sides. Takes sides really. Like the Hyuga clan and separation of the family as a whole in a sense. The two are both biased, prejudiced, and unfair. Not like chaos and the fair chance you get at making a name for yourself. Okay, I get it now. For that reason, I should be more like an agent of chaos and less like a schemer, Neji said, as Naruto smiled. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen of the elemental countries, look. The Hyuga prodigy has learned something new, exclaimed Naruto dramatically as Neji scowled at him. Which is why I want to put that theory to the test on you, Neji said, and Naruto raised an eyebrow at him. Oh really? How? Naruto inquired. With this coin, I flip it into the air, and depending on which side it lands on, we'll decide things between us. For the time being, Neji replied, with Naruto smirking at him and understanding what the man was talking about before releasing the burned hand from its restraint. So how exactly does this work? Inquired Naruto, amused, as the blonde discovered the Hyuga's undamaged hand at his throat and the coin in the burned one. Heads. You walk out of here and I don't alert anyone, Neji said, holding up the head side of the coin with the fire symbol on it. And tails? Asked Naruto, his gaze narrowed at him. You die. Yelled Neji, flipping the coin over to reveal it was warped from his brief manipulation of chakra through his injured hand. Now we're talking. Flip away. Exclaimed Naruto with a smile, as Neji flipped the coin into the air before landing in his burned hand, and the two exchanged glances for several seconds. Naruto's smile never faded. Several nights later, sunny. The full moon was shining brightly. It shone brightly, almost as bright as the sun itself, but was more pleasant to look at without risk of blindness, and it was one of the things Sabaku no Gaara liked to gaze at when it got dark. However, things were not pleasant or peaceful on this particular night. The sound of explosions could be heard all over the village. "We're under attack. All shinobi to battle stations!" yelled Asuna shinobi, raising the alarm. "Gaara!" exclaimed Temari as she rushed into the Cage's office to find her brother standing on the Cage Tower's balcony, holding the lunar staff and gazing up into the sky. He wasn't looking at the moon, though. He was staring at a figure on a bird-like creature that was flying beneath it. "I know, Temari. They came just as Naruto predicted. Activate the special seal he gave us before his last departure. It will allow him, Fu, and Utakata to arrive here to help us fight the Akatsuki," Gaara replied, knowing the other member of the organization was nearby. Temari activated the seal in a matter of seconds, and the trio appeared almost magically within minutes. The Suna Kunoichi, for her part, blushed at the thought of seeing Naruto again, recalling how she had caught a pervert peeping on the hot springs Suna had in their possession. Suna, like other villages, had a hot spring because theirs was founded around the largest oasis in Wind Country and thus was able to make one in the process with careful skill in irrigation techniques used by the first Cage. Anyway, while Temari was beating up the pervert, she hadn't realized she was on the male side of the hot springs and only wearing a towel. Did she forget to mention that Naruto was right there resting in the water while dropping off the lunar staff while visiting Suna for a few days? No. Well, he was, and it wasn't until Temari calmed down that she noticed Naruto staring at Suna Kunoichi's towel-covered body. When Temari finished stomping her foot on the pervert's head, only the towel had fallen off. As you can imagine, seeing each other with so little to nothing on was a shock and surprise for both. Naruto respectfully looked away, a blush on his face, remembering that this was his friend's sister. A hot one, too, but seeing Temari like that right now wasn't worth inciting Gaara's rage and causing a massive wave of sand to crash down on his head. Temari, thankfully, became aware of the situation, screamed, and ran back into the women's side of the hot springs. When Gaara arrived and learned that his sister had been involved in an incident there, Temari blamed the pervert she pummeled and kept Naruto out of the situation. Needless to say, no one ever saw the pervert again, and Naruto avoided her until he left Suna. Temari had to let him know everything was fine when she kissed him on the lips and told Naruto she hoped he would return soon. "Are they here?" asked Naruto, with Temari nodding and shaking the blush off her face, as well as the memory that caused it. "Gaara is preparing to fight them right now," Temari replied, with Naruto nodding and turning to face his fellow Jinchuriki behind him before nodding. The two rushed out the window, with Naruto now walking towards Gaara, who turned his head slightly to look at his first real friend. The two exchanged greetings before leaping from the balcony, with Temari flying out on her iron fan to protect Suna. "Look at this Sasori. It's a whole swarm of Jinchuriki," exclaimed Deidara from his clay bird, and the puppet master looked down to confirm his assertion. "We should retreat, Deidara. We don't have the power to take on all of them," Sasori replied, knowing they could easily take Gaara because their skills countered his, but taking on the other Jinchuriki without support from the other members was impossible, and would be suicidal if they tried. "Says you. I'm going to make them regret ever fighting us by blowing up this whole village," Deidara said before his bird was violently pulled downward by chakra chains Naruto shot from his body. "I can't let you do that, Deidara," Naruto said, ripping the bird apart with his chakra chains and grabbing the man by the face before throwing him to the ground. "So you've heard of me?" "I guess I should be impressed," Deidara replied, despite the fact that his face was crushed. No, not really. Our spy told us everything about you, Sasori, Hidan, Kakuzu, Zetsu, Pain, and Konan, Naruto said, leaving out Tobi, because only Itachi knew that information and didn't want it to be traced back to the Uchiha. Who is it? I'll kill him, exclaimed Deidara angrily as his hand went to his pack and began eating it to mold into a powerful explosive. No. You won't, Naruto replied, but just as he was about to snap the man's neck, his survival instincts kicked in, and he leapt back when Deidara threw a piranha-shaped explosive at him. The explosion sent Naruto flying back, but despite the explosive item packing a decent punch, he was unharmed and saw Deidara fleeing. While pursuing Sasori, who had unleashed an army of over 100 puppets, and engaging the other Jinchuriki, Naruto narrowed his one eye at the fleeing explosive's nutcase and formed a small army of shadow clones to pursue him. There are so many of them, exclaimed Fu as she and Utakata destroyed puppet after puppet while Gaara attempted to bash Sasori's skull in. Just keep destroying them. The more we destroy, the better our chances of eventually defeating Sasori, Utakata said before Naruto appeared and began cutting his own path through the army of puppets. Fu. Utakata. Find Deidara and go after him. One of my shadow clones just dispersed telling me he's fighting against Temari and Kankuro. Back them up, commanded Naruto while unleashing a spin kick that obliterated the top half of a nearby puppet with chakra coating the leg. Right, said Fu and Utakata, and the two Jinchuriki dashed off to aid their comrades in battle. Deidara will not go down without a fight, Kyuubi Jinchuriki. He will even blow them both to pieces, exclaimed Sasori as his puppets were mercilessly destroyed. You underestimate my friends. They are extremely resourceful, unlike you, Naruto retorted before spinning into a living tornado and unleashing a wave of crimson-yellow energy from his sword, obliterating every puppet in his path. Sasori would have said something, but Gaara had gotten past the puppet master's defenses and began pummeling the surprised Akatsuki member mercilessly. The puppet master's body was destroyed piece by piece, revealing that he was a living puppet after springing out of his own hunched-over body, and almost looked like Gaara's estranged brother due to the red hair and wild look in his eyes. Ironic. The puppeteer is a puppet himself, Gaara said, to which Sasori laughed. You have no idea. Through this means of survival, I have become a god and can never die, he exclaimed, laughing madly. Everyone dies. You just have to figure out how to kill them, Naruto said from behind Sasori after slicing the puppet master's head clean off. Nonetheless, the body remained active. Well, that is, until Gaara smashed the puppet body's chest open and pierced the body in order to stab the one thing that gave Sasori life. His soul. The cage lifted the body up using the hole in Sasori's chest while the lunar spear was inside, slammed it back down onto the ground, and then smashed the legendary puppet master's chest. Gaara wiped the blood from his weapon before devouring the remains of the Akatsuki member, and turned to Naruto after hearing the Uzumaki crush the red-haired enemy's puppet head. One down, one to go, Gaara said, as Naruto nodded. True, but don't get too cocky, Gaara. This guy was chosen to come after you because he can take elements like sand and use them to his advantage. Basically, your ability to use it has become your greatest weakness until his death, and I'd advise only using the lunar spear, replied Naruto, with Gaara nodding because Itachi had been very forthcoming about each Akatsuki member's abilities. Not to mention Sasori's secret spy on the Suna Council, head of internal security, who was removed by Baki and a team of Junin on Gaara's orders during Deidara's initial bombing run. Let's go help the others, Gaara said as the two vanished from the area, arriving at the battlefield to find Deidara subdued and dying from multiple stab wounds to his body. Clearly the work of Fu. Do you have anything to say to us before you die? Asked Naruto, as Deidara looked at him and Gaara. You think Mai and Sasori's deaths will be the end of it? The Akatsuki is everywhere. We know everything. Sooner or later, the organization will capture all of the Biju before bringing the world to its knees. Deidara yelled, his face skeptical. How droll, Naruto said, his voice dissatisfied. Oh yeah. Just so all of you freaks know. I find that art is a real blast. Exclaimed Deidara before flaring his chakra and seals appeared on his arms, revealing his body was armed with explosives. He's going to blow. Exclaimed Konkuro, each explosive on the Akatsuki member having enough power to take out a third of Suna. Naruto shot out every chakra chain he could muster and wrapped them around every inch of Deidara's body, the chains overlapping each other. When Naruto was done, the chains had completely consumed the Akatsuki's body many times over, and the Uzumaki had him pinned down. No one moved, spoke, or even dared to breathe for a long time, knowing that this was the moment when the legendary chakra chains of the Uzumaki clan would be tested in holding something other than a Biju. A massive pulse was felt, the sound barrier breaking from a loud explosion, and the large mass of chains surrounding Deidara's body now expanded out. Naruto and the others noticed smoke rising from within it and waited for a moment before the Uzumaki nodded to them that it was safe. Slowly, he recalled the chains back into his body, and all they saw of Deidara was a small smear of ash, which had been blown away by the wind on this cold desert night. 2 down, several more to go, Naruto said, as the others nodded, knowing they were one step closer to defeating the organization. That is a significant step.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.